What was this last Village Christmas? Which was the one where you wrote 2 scenes?
This was Village Christmas in 2011, I believe. No. This was Village Christmas in 2012.
Like, give me an example.
It was called, it was a love story. It was a story about, this was just a classic love story. We went back to the origins of a simple story about Mary and Joseph. And we imagined the point of view from Joseph's friends and from Mary's friends. Mm-hmm. And the real star of it were Mary and Joseph. Mary was played by Shinde. Yeah, and I was so excited to be working with her. And she also seemed to be excited to be working with us. And she showed up for the audition, and she showed up with Debbie Asila, and Debbie was there providing support. And we're like, Tina and Yafesi and I were in the audition room like, yo, did you know we were going to have actual, like, real celebrities coming? This is weird. And then, we had Njora, we had K1. And we had some funny scenes where the angel Gabriel was able to, like, had all these, he carried an iPad, he was wearing a fine suit, and he would run miracles like apps on his phone and be like, this is the Thunder app.
And who was Angel Gabriel?
A young man called Frank Abongo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was a success again. That was pretty good success. The play came out, it was staged. It was the one that had the smallest cast because it also had a really tiny budget. But it worked out. And there was something about seeing, I'll tell this to any writer, any aspiring writer. I've been told this before. You want to be a writer? Write. That's it. That's the only advice I can give you right now. All the other advice is on the other side of you starting to write. So just start writing. And again, like I said, the scenes I wrote in that thing were not very good. My gags weren't as funny as Tina and Yafesi's. I wasn't able to think like them from a writing perspective just yet. But they kept saying, yeah, this is okay. This can pass. It's fine. It works. And I was like, I guess if they say it, then it's correct. And we put on the play. And by the time we were going to be working on our next play, which was going to be the last one, now there I had full writing duty, just like the next person. And you could say that's when my journey as a writer really began.
Dude, okay. And does that now segue into groove theory?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back to talk about groove theory. Here's where we hold.
Oh yeah, groove theory is going to come a bit later on in the story.
Oh, actually, so then where do we go in from here?
Villagista.
Villagista again?
Yeah, the last Village musical. The last Village musical was called Gangsta's Paradise. Now, I hated that name. I personally hated that name because I was like, why are we taking already known materials and now adding them onto new material? Like, we're taking all this intellectual property and adding it onto ours that will bring more people. But the play itself was special because in this one, we had very little time. We had just the time between finishing a Village Christmas and now writing really quickly a whole self-contained play with original music around the Easter story. But now, whereas it was Yafesi and Tina before, we had a short time, Yafesi and Tina said, now you have no choice. Now you actually have to carry equal load as us. You've done your time. You've directed some, you've written a couple of scenes on this last one. Now we're all carrying this load. And I was like, I don't think I'm ready. I still have a full-time job and all that, but it's the work. We just had to write. What we ended up with was a story about the rot that Jesus' ministry in Jerusalem found. It was a rotten city. It was corrupt. Everyone was dejected. The church at that point, or whatever you want to call the Jewish establishment, was not helping things. Everyone was out to just enrich themselves. The people were suffering. To put it mildly, it was what Kenya is now. And we knew that Jesus had shown up as more of a revolutionary political figure and not the kind of benevolent savior that he's drawn as today. And we wanted to write a story about how did the two thieves who ended up on either side of him on the cross end up there. So we ended up telling the story of a gang of two thieves who had opposite points of view. One of them was like, circumstances got us here, we steal because we have to. Just don't hurt anyone in the process. But the other thief was like, whatever it takes, we're going to do it. If we have to, beg, kill, anything that comes in the way of actualizing ourselves. We will treat Jerusalem the way that Jerusalem treats us. We'll just go and destroy everything in the process. And their thieving work seems to be doing well until they decide, hold up, Jesus is here. But also, this also happens to be the time when Jerusalem's population is at its most. It was around Passover, was it? I believe so. Yeah, it was Passover. And everyone would troop to Jerusalem during Passover. And for this play, we went and did our research. We consulted Bible handbooks. We read the story behind the story, why the events that were leading up to the Passover and eventually Jesus' death were historically significant, why Jesus presented such a danger to the establishment at the time. And we ended up writing a story about how two thieves' desperation to make it in this city had them trying to rob the temple, and how that robbing of the temple ended up having them get arrested, and there was a bit of double crossing in the process, and they ended up on either side of Jesus. And one person decides to harden his heart, and Yafesi wrote this beautiful monologue, two monologues, one by the thief on one side, one by the thief on the other side. And anyone who wasn't really paying attention couldn't tell that that's where the story was going. Even if at the beginning we gave it away, that one person is in prison, we just didn't tell them why. It was a really good story. I remember at one point, one person saying, you guys have taken a different course with this. This play is a lot more cerebral. We have to think a lot more with this one. And I couldn't tell if he was complaining or if he was observing. But I felt that was a really high compliment. Now that play, a lot of us who were involved in village musicals, I'll tell you. Okay. A lot of us considered this play to be pretty special. And here's the reason why. The people who are playing the thieves, because we're in the middle of the night now, I'm going to blank out on some names. My brain is not at its best. But we had Justin Masharia playing one of the thieves. Now, I'm completely blanking out on the name of a second thief, but he was also a part of Ukoflani, Mau Mau. And he wanted to now get his career going. Man, we're going to remember his name. Please just put his name as a title. Yeah. And I'm really, really, really sorry that I can't remember your name at this point, because we've been at this for a while. And then they were the leaders of the gang. And then the other members of the gang, we had Wahanga Gakere, who back then was known as Saramando. We had someone who was going to end up working with again, called Silas Miami. And Silas Miami has now become something of a juggernaut in the South African film scene. I mean, he's going places. And rounding up the cast of 5 Thieves was an actor who Tina had seen audition for a role in The Love Story. And she said, this guy didn't put on a really good performance, but there was something about his presence that really got me, and I think you need to consider him. And I looked at his picture and I was like, Tina, you just think he's really cute and he's big and he's dark-skinned, and there's something else going on here. I know the kind of man you like, and I think you just have a little crush going on here. But somehow I think they maintained correspondence, and she invited him personally to this next audition. And he came up, and once again he didn't put on a very good audition, but he was so committed to it. We were like, yeah, I think we'll cast this dude. That dude was Brian Ogola.
Yep.
So that was our gang, and they were the stars. We also had a role of the prostitute that almost got. We sort of amalgamated a bunch of women in the New Testament and created a composite character of the lady who was almost stoned and that Jesus rescued. And she presented a bit of a love interest to one of the thieves, and she decides, I'm going with Jesus now. And this thief decides, oh, this Jesus, just like the establishment, has come to steal something from me, so I'll steal something from them. And that sort of formed the heart of the story. We're really proud of it. This play was staged at about the time that Mavuno was now really preparing to move to Hill City. Mm-hmm. And once again, I discovered the pain of how a church can do you in, and how the church did us in now was from going to being fully supportive of this village series, they started making our work more and more difficult. And I remember on the day that we were asking for furniture that used to sit in the office, we'd done this before, to be used as props. We were like, there's furniture sitting in one of the offices, and could we please borrow this furniture to take from the office
to
the stage, or just steps away. And we're like, yeah, but our policy for this thing is we're going to have to treat it as a rental, and we're going to have to charge you for it. And we're like, what? A rental? What? We're doing this work for you. Are you going to charge us for props? It ended up leaving such a bitter taste in all our mouths, and it ended up being so difficult for the church with its move and its shift of priorities to fund the plays that the village series of musicals came to an end. Which was really sad, but I would consider the end of the village series being the beginning of my writing career. Yeah.
Hey, dude. Yani, first and foremost, we've been talking for like, is it 8 hours? I'm not even sure anymore, man.
I don't know if anyone is still watching up until this point, man.
No, for sure guys are still watching without a doubt.
I hope so.
We'll definitely be back to finish this series. We don't know when.
But
we'll
come and finish.
But we are going to come and finish. For now, we gotta put these eyes to sleep, man. But how amazing has the journey been?
I don't think that there's any experience that has been wasted. And I'm glad that I get to. I've never done this, Richie. We've never talked about the whole process in such detail. From age 5 to now, and I realized that everything is connected, everything happens for a reason. I don't ever know this stuff when this stuff is actually happening. I don't have that sort of outside-in perspective.
It's a power of reflection.
Wait, hold on. It's a power of, it's retrospect, hindsight, 2020. I can do that now, and I can talk about how when I lost that money and I almost died crying in the middle of a street in Philadelphia because work was so hard and life was so hard, or anything really. Everything was leading to something. And now here we are.
Dude, and the reason why I honestly say we're going to actually come and finish it, whenever that may be, is because we have to. Because it is the beginning of your writing career.
Yeah.
Like from this time, we've touched from dance to like
we've touched a lot of
narrating stories. Like who knew that to being an extra? Now I know it's called a background actor.
Yeah.
To fame.
Yeah.
Going viral.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's so crazy. We haven't even touched. There's so much we're yet to still touch on. Safaricom, your job on your MC. We haven't touched on BYSS.
Yeah. We haven't even touched about Nairobi Half-Life coming out.
We have exactly.
Nairobi Half-Life hasn't come out yet.
And being branded.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mugash, thank you so much for, is it the 8 hours that you've given us for now? When we come back, we come back. I know guys will demand, if you think we need to come back, write in the comments for those who are still wondering where does the story go from here.
Yeah.
But for now, adios, mama. You can even hear my voice. It sounds so nice. Later.
See ya.
Wow.